Hello everybody, my name's Lawrie Kirk and I'm the Business Development Manager from APMG based in Canberra, Australia. And welcome to Midday Mentors, and a great pleasure to welcome Sarah Ross and also Scott Spence. Welcome Sarah, how are you?
Look, I'm very, very well, thank you.
Good, from sunny Auckland. It is sunny, I hope, or evening on Auckland. So.
Going into autumn, into winter.
Into winter. And Scott, you're from sunny Queensland, always beautiful. Is that correct?
I am indeed, yeah. From a New Zealand originally, have to let you know that, but yeah, living in Brisbane.
Excellent. Now, look, it's great this day, Midday Mentors, for those who haven't been part of this series. It's a series that we're doing of activities for people to say, look, at midday we post something on LinkedIn and on our website, and we're having discussion points with people who are mentors in their own right. And it's a great privilege to have Scott and Sarah here this afternoon. Scott runs CC Learning based in Brisbane and has also been a trainer for many years. And Sarah also has been an accomplished trainer, trained in many continents, and still trains across a broad portfolio of the APMG products, and I believe even doing a change management training program today. So we've caught you in the evening, so we really appreciate your time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is probably about 15 or 20 minutes, and we brought this in because we've had great feedback. People said, I need to just have a rest in the middle of the day, go and walk the dog or go for a walk. Let's listen to some of the things that are happening in our accredited training provider community. So Scott, a bit of introduction. Scott, tell me about CC Learning, and there's been a lot of change in the last 2 months, and yeah, how could you summarise some of the change that's happened to your company?
Yeah, well, I think it's worthwhile putting this in context. I was lucky enough to have travelled from Brisbane to Auckland and Wellington in the second week of March, before the coronavirus hit. In fact, during that event, we were scheduling to speak to people in Italy about the coronavirus, and we actually ran a pandemic breakfast event in Auckland during that time.
Really?
Yeah, so we were rather ahead of the curve, so to speak. Everyone's talking about curves at the moment. And we were thinking, right, what could probably happen is people would be unhappy to go along to a training course where there are multiple people in it. They'll want to protect themselves. Little did we know that within about 4 days of making that sort of call, New Zealand would bring in a complete ban on international travel into the country, and in fact lock down everybody at home for a period of a number of weeks. So I'd gone out and I'd bought a whole lot of webcams in advance and flown to New Zealand with those, and then set them up on everybody's computer. So I had 3 trainers luckily in Wellington at that time, including Sarah, and we caught up and we got all this technology working. I said, okay, people are going to come into the classroom. There'll be some people at home, so let's just be ready for them. And we trialed it, and it was working all perfectly. And yeah, lo and behold, on Saturday or on Sunday, as I was coming back from a hike that I was doing up in Auckland, there was an announcement that even Australia was shutting down its borders.
Yeah,
and
so
everyone was going to.
There's a big change.
So
timing.
So what can I say? We were lucky enough to have thought about it and started planning. The timing was right, and while we all wish it didn't happen, you can only try and make the best of the situation you've got. So. Fantastic. I've got fantastic trainers. These guys are professionals. They know how to jump in and make things work. Fantastic customers. The customers were just like, yep, sure, no worries. We had a conversion of about 70 to 80% of our customers who were booked on face-to-face training turn over into online delivery. And the trainers, they had a baptism of fire.
They did. Well, that's a lovely segue into Sarah, a baptism of fire. And Sarah, you've trained in lots of different environments and areas, and in Auckland itself. So you not only had the transformation of your business, but your personal life, knowing that a very severe lockdown was happening. Interesting time.
Extremely interesting. And I think just picking up from Scott there, the period of sort of self-isolation and bubbles and lockdown, I actually chose to do my lockdown in the middle of the North Island, a place called Lake Taupo, where as a family got a small holiday place, and the internet was abysmal. And so what Scott, using the technologies and things like that, was able to get me all set up with brand new sort of computers brand new sort of SIM cards, Wi-Fi, all sorts of things like that. And so we were really ready. I was in the wrong place, I think, in hindsight. I'm now in the right place, but we were ready.
Yeah, look, and I think that's interesting. You say that first week was people who had plans or were starting to plan. That conversion ratio you said is what I've heard from other ATOs. They said, look, that first week was about 5 or 6 days of a bit of mayhem, a bit of chaos. But after that, we just reconvened and people have really adapted to the change. I'm hearing that. I've also heard from previous people, have you noticed a change? I'll ask Sarah first and then Scott. In your participants, are they a little bit more patient? I'm not leading the witness here. Have you found a change in the nature of your the candidates?
Oh, absolutely. It's I don't know if these are the right words, but I think it's almost like going to a movie theatre where you watch the movie together. You have this communal experience, and so we all did COVID together in our own ways. And I think mantras of I'm not cliches like be kinder, be calmer, be nicer, be safer, but I think that actually has translated also into allowing someone like me or even delegates attending, that you press the wrong button sometimes, you don't press a button sometimes, and a lot of help is given inside the room. That I think the expectation is we're on the same level playing field, which I really love.
Yeah, I think it's right. Scott, what were your reflections? Have you seen from customers, direct customer, where you've had to go and negotiate with the customer, maybe a change of something from classroom? What's been, the feeling? Have you noticed a change?
Look, yeah, I think our customers were very accommodating. Suddenly you have the sense that everyone's actually an individual. They're not from an organisation. They're an individual. You're seeing them in their home usually when you're delivering the training. I actually ran technical support for the first number of courses, and I'm sort of available on call when things go wrong. And so I would then phone customers up. We had a lot of effort in trying to help customers through what is probably quite a technically challenging time to coordinate the correct IT response, the correct sort of experience. We were very upfront. We would say at the beginning of the courses, this is all new to us. It's new to you. We're going to make mistakes. We might have kids jumping on our laps halfway through a presentation. We might like spill coffee over our computers. All that stuff's okay.
It's all going to happen.
You sort of try and normalize stuff that people maybe have a bit of a fear about. And then they realize, actually, this is actually quite a homely environment. I'm inviting a trainer into my home. I'm inviting a participant into my home. And, that has such a humanizing effect, I think, on the group. I dare to say, I don't think you could get that in a classroom. You suddenly get this recognition of everybody being a human in their bedroom, on their kitchen table, with the coffee machine in the background, all of this sort of stuff.
Well, that's
I've seen kids doing cartwheels behind us, behind the participant, not even knowing, and I just chuckle.
Yeah. Look, I also you raised a good question about being a bit tech savvy, and also I think I noticed that now I've done some redecorating in the background. That's a nice shade of green. Can you please, being an Australian Wallaby supporter, is there going to be a splash of green and gold there, Scott, at all? Yeah. Tell us about the green decorating behind you, please.
Let me just light it up a bit, just a moment.
Okay.
I have, because in addition to my beautiful Shrek green background that I've now got, I've also got a large filming light in front of me. I've got a condenser microphone, and I've got another filming light over there. So, some of the stuff got pretty important. So we've actually stuck this. Let me just move my camera a bit. You can see I've stuck this onto the wall with tape. It's in the corner. There's the curtain there, and you've got to sort of adjust things a bit to make them work. But the idea is to try and provide an environment which is conducive to providing the most professional impression as possible. And it's also fun. If you have a green background, you can have the Taj Mahal in the background.
That's right.
You can have an underwater scene. And we've even worked hard on trying to make our courses exciting by having a theme during the day. And I've literally got some trainers, and I was talking to Sarah about this, wearing goggles and, dressing on, okay, today we're out in the farm, so I've got my straw hat on type thing.
Good.
And trying to make it's not just about the entertainment side of the training, but it's also about the involvement of the participants. If you wear a funny hat each day, the participants are going to, and the kids see them, and so it becomes a family event, not just an individual's participants.
Now, Sarah, you were training today. I talked to you earlier about making training relevant. We have there is still a great desire and thirst for people to have certifications. So there's a great desire for that. That hasn't gone away, and we're seeing a lot. I see the sales leads coming in, lots of leads coming in. But what a great! I talked to you earlier about case studies. And if you're talking, you did change today. Tell me about today, the case study that you were running with,
Well, what we do with our change management course anyway is we invite people to bring their own story. And traditionally, old words, traditionally it would be a story about your own workplace, your own life situation, depending on where you were. And as a group, basically, we all decided that the COVID case study of communications and stakeholders and disruption and all of the things that as we were talking earlier about the emotions, the logic, the feelings, all of those sorts of things just came into play because and I think just the point that I think we're all making in this is that the case study is real, that we're living in, and it's happening to all of us, and it's such a tremendous leveler.
It is.
And we all got different experiences, and so it becomes the fact that whilst we are a virtual room, all of us, like a group of working through change together in a coordinated way, everybody sees it differently. Thus is the opportunity, thus is the challenge.
It's a unique learning opportunity to be able, and I'm speaking of being an ex-trainer. When I say ex-trainer, I don't think you ever finish being the desire of training, just that I'm working for the accreditation body, so can't train there. But what I feel, I always found to have something to make that theory real. And this is a fabulous opportunity. Like, I agree, we would not wish COVID on anyone or experiences again, but if we start to look at the people are acknowledging that not only is the certification, but the value of having this global-based theory. I'm getting feedback that people are saying, I'm really keen on the change management, really keen on understanding more about Agile PM. I've got a little bit more time to look at that. What other approaches? Yeah, this is probably a unique time that we'll have case studies and stories, and this will live and be relevant for people in the classroom.
And I think if I can endorse also what Scott was saying before, this because we don't meet face to face, there's such an emphasis on putting the humanity into the virtual environments. And one of the things I love is actually so not everybody puts their camera on because they don't want to, they don't need to, they're private, they're doing maybe some other work at the same time, and this is what we juggle with. But sometimes it's a little bit like the Brady Bunch, and I'm sure some people who's watching this won't remember the Brady Bunch. But you see people looking down at someone underneath, but they're not really underneath them, and some other people looking up like this or to the side.
Well, for the younger members listening in, the Muppet Show. Remember the Muppet Show had that same thing. Maybe that's even too old for some of the people listening, but yeah, it is. It's people are looking at, they're feeling like they're in the room, and I feel. The great points that you both mentioned, that it has brought in the individual. To me, it's a great leveler. I think no longer is the trainer is always in the front of the room. The trainer does not mean that the trainer is the fount of all knowledge. The trainer is there to facilitate you to a syllabus and bring together a learning in a tight period of time. Does not mean that you are the ultimate expert. And I think when you'll find that the trainer also has, I've been described as a cul-de-sac on the IP superhighway, which I think was not quite a compliment, but I am not IT savvy, but it's a great school. Can I ask you first, Scott? You've picked up on that on an initiative where you've actually looked at train the trainer aspects for virtual training. Could you outline what you've done briefly on that? I'd be interested.
Yeah, so just with regards to getting the trainers up to speed with what we've been doing, we have quite a bit of interaction between the trainers to talk to each other to find out what's working. Obviously, we're using email, WhatsApp, various other technologies to make that interaction happen. I guess the other thing too, maybe diverting away from just the trainer aspect, is looking at how do we make sure from a technology perspective the students and the participants have the lowest technical barrier to attending the training. And so what we did is we actually bought a number of laptops. We've got 3 laptops available. They're loan laptops, and when we have participants who don't have the technology, or they have the technology but it's work technology that they are not allowed to install new applications on, or maybe even work's not able to provide them with technical support. We actually have laptops all ready to go that we ship directly to the customer. They turn it on, they've got the username and password plastered on the cover. They turn it on, they log in, and immediately it comes up on our computer saying they've logged in, and we can go in and help them out. We can install the online exam software, for example, that APMG offers, and we can help them with that. So it's very, very effective.
That's a great initiative, and I think that's an initiative also for helping people who may not have the capacity, to do that. So that's a really good initiative, and I think we'll see that growing very much so. Sarah, what about if I had to ask some of the trainer tips? If you're giving, think of if you were writing a note to yourself as a trainer 15 years ago, what would you write to yourself, knowing some of the change you've had in the last last 2 months, sorry?
I think words that come to mind are kind of be bold, be brave, go out there, ride the wave. And I know these are very awkward times and difficult times for some people, but it is an opportunity. There is good in some of this, I really do believe, not just for the training side of things. I think, and I won't go into those. But certainly one of the things that's enabled me to do is actually be more versatile. When you can't, meet people in a room. I don't know if I can say this on screen, but it's a very New Zealand thing. When you can't press flesh, it's a bit like rather presidential, in a nice way. You've got to be able, through technology, to be able to press that flesh somehow. So the way I use my voice, the way I look, look at people, I should say, the way I use people's names, the way I try and work the room after a while, because one of the things I've discovered is that initially it's good to ask people what they think by name, but what I've discovered 3 days into this course, change management and other ones that we've done, they're all volunteering to say, which brings its own kind of organization you need to work through of not over talking and things like that. Using humor, because it's not sometimes humorous for some other people, and this actually is a good distraction for them, because maybe they've lost their job, maybe they're looking for a new job, and that's certainly some of the conversation that comes up in this, is that this is an enabler for the future. But reading the room. That's
also very important. You would also want to set the context and get to know a bit people, where people are coming from, because people could have either just lost a loved one or been feeling frightened, and this is a relief. Your humour that you use, or the case studies even that you use. I still remember years ago I wrote for an ATO. I did a complete set of course material, and we know all of us know how much work goes into that. And I had a great graphic of a person falling between 2 skyscrapers. Little did I know that it was the World Towers. So I had to actually change. So those sort of things make a big difference in how I think you get to know your people and be cautious in that first half a day before you then move on. I'll set you a challenge though. I'd be very interested to see how much interaction you have with this cohorts of people that you have now compared to the follow-on cohorts that you have in the classroom. I'd be really interested in to see that sort of follow-on that you have, or that contact that people have. Be interesting.
Yeah, what's even going to be more interesting is when we actually start mixing it. We're going to have mixed classes where we deliver the same classroom is then broadcast as a webinar event.
So I think it'd be interesting, Sarah, to pick up on Scott, to pick up on the level of follow-on content, because I know that as a trainer, you always had people that were following you up or continuing in your area here. So now, Scott, I'm just got a few more questions. One's very interesting about the changes that you're doing for Train the Trainer. I know you're offering that. You offered that because it's not just APMG trainers. When we talk about trainers, tertiary providers for people listening from overseas, we have a registered training organisations in Australia that deliver other trainings for, say, tertiary colleges or universities. What have you also been doing there, Scott?
Yeah, we've actually started up a Zoom training course where we train people on how to use Zoom. All of the learnings that we took from working with Sarah and working with Oswin and working with David and talking to David, who are our three main trainers, we basically took our lessons learned from that and put it into a training course to talk about how to do all the things that Sarah's been talking about, how to make it more human, how to make the participants interact in a way that they feel comfortable doing. And it's using the technology, it's using the skills that we already have as a trainer, it's replicating that sort of nice sort of environment that people feel safe and confident in. Yeah, being able to use those skills in a different way is basically what our efforts are. And we've had a few organisations go through the Zoom training, organisations that deliver accredited courses through Australia. And they found it highly useful, much better. That they've been delivering with Zoom for quite some time, and yet we came in there with some of our ideas and they were like, wow, okay, we could actually make this work even better than we have now. So it's been good. Yeah.
So there's some generic platforms. We talked earlier about it's not just Zoom's one. There's the other people using GoTo training. The APMG's got the learning platform using Big Blue Button. I think it's also meaning that there's a need. What you've tapped into is a generic skill for payment, and also it's a bit like, I think sometimes we've had trainers that have been accredited, it's like driving an automatic car, but now they have to drive a manual. But it's also not just a manual car, it's an articulated lorry. So I think we probably need to look at our training license, if you like, to say, well, have you got a training license? And we need to probably help people because they may have a client that is using the APMG learning platform, or they're using another one there. So I think you've tapped into something really good to give people generic skills. I think that's great.
Yeah, in fact, you did right. In fact, what we've learned over the past few weeks, really, we're looking at branching out into doing face-to-face training, and we've said to ourselves, how are we going to do this? We can't rely on one technology to be able to roll out our training. So we, for example, in Zoom, you're able to set up polls. Now, one of the problems we've found is, of course, you couldn't do that in a live environment with actual participants. So we're actually moving those polls into the slides themselves, and that allows us to be agnostic with regards to the technology. So if we've got the functionality actually built into the presentation, effectively technology doesn't matter. And therefore, when I say just technology, I'm not just talking about broadcast technology. I'm talking about the technology of being in a room. So being in a room actually doesn't matter. It's almost the same thing. So trying to normalize that as much as possible is definitely a bit of an effort, we're just sort of swaying from one extreme to the other at the moment, so hopefully we'll get a normalization very soon. I'm sure Sarah would like that.
Sarah, how many platforms are you got to be familiar with? But eventually you'll find some standardization, or common features.
That's right.
Four platforms.
There we go.
And I suppose that finishes if I'm thinking about skills that the trainers need to have. I do think I know that for people who are interested, and I'll look direct in the camera, people who are interested in becoming an APMG trainer, I've got a great slide set that I'm going to have to now, and I'm going to have to adjust. But I would also encourage you to contact myself and contact the likes of Sarah and Scott, who are on LinkedIn. But contact us to think about, there is a career. I think this will open up some people to say, look, I was always probably a bit nervous in the classroom. I think this will maybe, the classroom skill is still needed, but maybe there's a person, this could attract some other people thinking about training. Sarah, and mentoring, if you are mentoring a person, finally, what skills would you want to see that person develop now? If they said they'd like to become a trainer in 18 months' time, what would you urge them to develop?
Well, certainly, though, those prepping skills of how to use the technology, because Scott will well know, he schooled me very, very well, and I needed schooling on it. But actually, it is almost like that. Can I say that humanity 101? Being able to read people when you can't read people. And one of the things that I do, and I don't know whether others do this, but I have to think a lot more before I do every session every day, because it's like playing a piano on the keyboard. You know, you've got to have your documents up, you've got to have them ready. They're kind of hidden behind, or you've got to have them there. You don't want to lose time going through that. And I almost close my eyes, almost blindfold myself, and run through initial scripting, so that I'm actually quite able to seamlessly move, not between just slides or documents, but seamlessly between people as well.
Yes.
And I think also I've, perhaps one sees on this that I'm a bit chatty on certain things, but I've learned to be, with technology, to use my words better when I'm online, so to speak.
Yes, no, that's great. Well, we also, one thing in our accreditation with APMG, we do have independent assessments, and we've been doing those virtually for the last number of years. I think we are encouraging that skills, but I can see us certainly allowing us to look for better skills and work from there. Scott, just a couple of final comments. We're just about out of time, but I'd just like to ask you, improving candidates. What, from a candidate's perspective, what are some of the changes that you would recommend in advising a candidate to come on a course? So candidates thinking about, oh, I'd like to do this. I don't think, first of all, don't be frightened of a virtual classroom. I think it's great, you can get interactive. What would be, however, some of the skills you would want that person to have, or some of the minimum requirements if they're going to venture into a virtual classroom?
Look, I think as a candidate, I just like to expand on what Sarah's talked about. You know, we can't underestimate, even with the sort of the baptism of fire into the technology world. There's nothing better than having a pre-course event, and we have pre-courses events about a week before the training courses, where for half an hour we take the students through everything they've got to do. We literally teach them how to turn on and off their video, how to turn on and off their audio, how to raise their hand, how to lower their hand. We just literally teach them the technology, because we want the technology to be a low barrier. It's an opportunity to meet other participants in your class, or maybe if the training organisation is running them regularly, you might have people from other classes. So it's another networking opportunity. And so I think to get the most out of a training course, look, I'm all in for the qualifications and everything, but the ability to connect with those other people, the ability to have private chats with those other people, the ability to create a sense of belonging within that group, and to extend it out. Say, hey, does anyone want to get together on a conference chat after the course and just talk about the tough questions I had? You know, I think expanding themselves out like that and being prepared to speak to others will make the course 150 times more valuable than just getting the qualification. And that makes it helps you with your potential work, helps with your potential professional development. There's a lot of things there. So get the technology right, get the social skills right, or extend yourself. And the trainer will talk you through it and help you through it. So
I'll come to a comment with Sarah. I'll also pick up on one point you made that resonated with me. There is you will find that some of the people will use this when they've been isolated. You know, we've had feedback that this is a great, I'm feeling isolated. I'm not just bored, but I'm actually feeling isolated. And it's lovely to have a couple of hours session a day where I've also been able to share with people in the Asia Pacific region. We've opened up a time zone here that we can have people from Darwin, from Tom Price, from Singapore, even, you know, in some of our classes. So handing over to last statements from you, Sarah, and then I'll finish with Scott. So Sarah, anything that we haven't covered today that you'd like to pass on to either candidates or future trainers?
I think give it a go, just give it a go. And technology is going to keep on developing. It's going to keep on changing. I mean, I cannot imagine maybe with all of what we have now, what it's going to look like in 6 months. I think it's going to look different, but I don't know what it is.
Yes.
So I think we've got to go with it and fundamentally, I also think that our offerings from APMG are also probably, when we come to looking at our certifications and some of our better practices, are probably going to incorporate what we're going through now.
Yes.
May even, I hope, at the back of every manual, Lawrie, is a challenge, note to trainers, note to delegates.
Yeah, I agree.
On being online and things like that.
Yes.
No, I don't really have anything specific to say, except I think it's bold and I think it's great. I know it's difficult, I know it's sad, but it's good.
Excellent. Well, thank you. That's great comments, Sarah. I really appreciate it from a person of your experience and practical experience. You know, it's evening now. You've got to get ready. We probably should give you some rest before you hit the class tomorrow, because it is a taxing time. Scott, any final comments there? You know, you've
look, I mean,
it's been an interesting time.
Yeah, look, I'd just like to say during these times, we've been very thankful for the APMG and the flexibility they've provided when it comes to getting exams sorted out, being able to assist people and doing online, like the trainer invigilation that's online is just brilliant. It really makes the environment a lot less challenging for the students. And having the option of individual invigilation is also really beneficial. You know, I think everyone stepped up to the mark and made it happen. And, you know, where else could you find this in an industry where, you know, we're all prepared to work together, trainers, you know, certification bodies to make all of this work. So I just really appreciate the fact that you've helped me keep my business going.
Well, it is a partnership in a lovely way. I think I can't surpass that last comment, but I think if I appreciate that too, because we've you know, our CEO did put out a general letter, and that cliche "we are in this together" has been used, but it's genuinely meant, and we're learning from each other. What I'm enjoying about everybody in this is an incredible learning time for us, and as people who are actively involved in adult learning, I think we'll reflect back on these times, and I know that I'm looking forward to, yes, I will take that as a challenge, Sarah. I think we do have some invigilation notes to people, and we will have we will probably look at our trainer assessment stuff that we need to give people guidance for this. I'd like to thank you for your time, and ladies and gentlemen, this will be recorded and we'll be sharing on social media. For contacts, it'll have my particular contacts there. We'll have on the front of the slide there, you'll see our email details, and we look forward to further contacts and with you. And thank you, CC Learning. Thank you, Sarah. We wish you all the best. Thank you.